Hello everyone, Dylan from Yugioh Everything here, and welcome back to our final Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode review. This is going to be my review on episode 92, the final episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's. Now, I know I have not been really consistent with doing these episode reviews. I do a podcast called 7's Up every Wednesday night, which basically acts like a very long, extended review for each and every episode, but I will try to be more consistent with Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush, but I did want to give my thoughts on the final episode of 7's and on the series as a whole. Now, I'm going to be doing another video later this week discussing the ending and some theories that I believe could be hinted at based on how the show ended and just kind of break down everything that happened. But in this video, I want to give more of a general thought on the episode and more of a general thought on Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's as a whole, since this series has officially come to an end. And what did I think about episode 92? Well, I really liked it. I actually feel like it is one of the stronger endings a Yu-Gi-Oh! Series has ever had. It went in some directions that I really was not expecting, and my lord, it was a very loaded final episode. We start with, obviously, Yugioh and Luke having their final duel. Yugioh even refers to it as his final rush duel, and the first couple of turns of this duel play more like a tabletop Yu-Gi-Oh! Game rather than seeing the, holograms of the monsters. That changes as the duel progresses, but I think the coolest thing for me was the fact that there was no music for the first couple of turns. That doesn't really happen in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or really in anime quite often, an extended period of time with no music. And the no music, not only did it represent them being in space, but it also represented something way more eerie going on during this duel, knowing that the looming threat of Yugioh possibly losing to Otis was there, and knowing that Yugioh is basically dueling to save Luke's life, and Luke is basically dueling for the right to die alongside Yugioh. And when you peel back the layers and look at it from that perspective, the no music is a great decision because it really shows a much more eerie tone beyond the scenes of the duel. And there was a very eerie tone beyond the scenes of the duel when you think about what's actually at stake. So the duel goes on for a little bit, and Yugioh ends up having one last chance to beat Luke. He has to draw Seven's Road Magician, but Luke makes it known to the viewer and kind of reminds us that Seven's Road Magician and all of Yugioh's good cards are in the deck that is currently being held up with his duel against Otis, because the duel against Otis has been paused. They're just waiting for Otis to recircle the moon to restart the duel, and once that duel restarts, you would assume Yugioh is going to lose. And so Yugioh has one last draw, and he gives Luke the card before we or Luke see what it is. He tells Luke Man to get Luke off the ship. Luke leaves the ship, and, the Goha siblings, prepare to retrieve Luke. And we're just kind of wondering, okay, well, what card did he draw? Yugioh uses his ID card, the card that allows him to rush duel, the card that gives him an ID in the dueling world, and he uses that card to create another copy of Seven's Road Magician. That copy of Seven's Road Magician ends up delivering the final blow to Luke, and Luke finally loses. This was something that I felt like was going to happen at some point in Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's. I said it during my review of episode 52 when he beat Yugioh at the end of the tournament arc. I even said it a couple of months ago, and I remember every time I said it, there'd be a lot of people in my chat and in the comments saying, Dylan, you're high on copium. Luke is not going to lose. I always believed that he was going to lose. I really did. I just didn't think the writers of this show were going to have... the writers have proven to be very meticulous with a lot of things, and I just did not think they were going to have a character go undefeated to the point where he never even drew or had a no result. I mean, every duel he was in was a win, so it was something that I really, until the end, firmly believed was going to happen, and I don't know if I love them waiting till the very last episode, but there is something to be said about it, right? Luke leaves the ship, and Yugioh goes on his, essentially, suicide mission, and in the most important duel of Luke's life, the most important rush duel he's ever had, he falls short. And on the other side of it, Yugioh, in his fourth attempt at beating Luke, finally beats him, and when he beats him, you hear, like, his voice crack, and I think it's half from excitement and relief, and half from the sheer fact that he's trying to hide the terror that he must be internally going through because he knows he's about to most likely lose his life against Otis. I mean, even though Yugioh has this very happy demeanor during his duel with Luke, I think a lot of it was a mask. I mean, you can't be genuinely happy and excited about things in that situation, and Yugioh hit it very, very well. And I think we as the viewer do see cracks of that. I think the crack in his voice trying to celebrate the fact that he finally beat Luke was a great sign of it. I think the fact that when Luke is yelling at him, which was very emotional, Luke is yelling at him to not leave and that they can have all these rush duels and they can keep rush dueling. And, you know, you see Yugioh with the classic anime view where it's not showing the character's eyes, it's just showing their face or their mouth as they're walking away. I thought that was a great scene. And all in all, the fact that Yugioh had to use his ID card in order to beat Luke, something that is so absurd and last resort, is also super fitting because Yugioh clearly is not as good of a duelist as Luke. I don't think anyone would argue that. Luke is the best duelist in the show. And so in order for Yugioh to beat him, it makes sense from a storytelling perspective that he has to do something way beyond the scope of a normal rush duel. And in this case, that's simply him using his ID card to create another Sevens Road Magician and sacrificing his duel account just to beat Luke in his fourth attempt at doing so. So I thought from a writing perspective, it was perfect the way that this duel played out. So Luke leaves and Yugioh is finally face to face with Otis. After a couple of back and forth action, we knew that Yugioh was going to, by the way, play that face down card. And after a few back and forth action, Otis makes it clear that once the servers are connected with this duel again, Yugioh will immediately be disqualified, and that'll be that because he no longer has a dueling ID card. So what Yugioh does is he goes into hyperspace, he takes the Otis robot, and he flies the Otis robot along with his robot into the depths of outer space. He has one last attack with Sevens Gios, which ends up defeating Otis, but because this duel never was able to reconnect to the server, if it did, Yugioh would lose. So Yugioh and Otis get sent off into hyperspace, they disappear, and as it's happening, man, probably one of my favorite parts of the episode, all of the characters are reciting the lore from the very first episode on how to become King of Duels, and everyone just quickly realizes that Yugioh has actually become the King of Duels by carving a path to the unseen future, or something along those lines. Yugioh is the true King of Duels. It's not Luke, who only won that title in some tournament, that didn't really have any true deeper meaning to it. It was just a tournament. I think that message is also so in line with what Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens is, and it's a fantastic message. You do not need to be the best duelist, who's Luke. You do not need to be the strongest duelist or the best person at rush dueling, but the King of Duels is so much more than that. It's someone who is willing to sacrifice their life in order to save the world, in order to save his friends, in order to save dueling. Because remember, rush duels, he also sacrifices rush duels in order to just save dueling, which would have been eliminated had Yugioh lost this duel. That is the embodiment of what the King of Duels actually is. And I think it is so perfect that is how Yugioh obtained the King of Duels crown. And we realize in this episode that even though Yugioh is not the best duelist, I think far from it, he is what the King of Duels truly embodies, and that is a character willing to sacrifice themselves to protect their friends and to protect the world. And that is just a perfect message. And as we realize that, Yugioh disappears, and we actually have a 2-year time skip, which is super cool. During this time skip, we see all the characters again, and their designs. Some look very different, like the Fish Goha sibling, Eugene, looks completely yoked. Even Yoshio looks pretty different as well. Mimi looks a bit older. Some look similar. I felt like Nail looked pretty similar, but you could definitely see a little bit of a slight change. There was one great scene where there's 2 adults are berating the kids for dueling, and one is wearing a sweatshirt that definitely stands for bridge. I'm pretty sure it's the Studio Bridge logo. And the other one is wearing a keychain that has a K, probably symbolizing Konami. So you have an adult Studio Bridge character and an adult Konami character, and they get reamed by the Goha siblings. And I thought that was absolutely hilarious. And then we learn a little bit more about what these characters have been doing, particularly Luke. Luke seems to be the only one that has not truly moved on. I'm sure the weeks following Yugioh's disappearance was very tough for everyone. We don't get to see that, unfortunately. But 2 years later, Luke is still sulking, looking at the sky. His sister calls him out on it, so that's how we know Luke is still processing this and has been processing this. Roman comes and starts physically assaulting him, very a la Tiger, and just tries to get him to admit that he still hasn't really been the same since Yugioh left, and we can kind of tell that that is the truth as the viewing audience. And then we learn that the Rush Duel robot has re-entered orbit. And so Gakuto, Luke, and Roman start bicycling to where the robot is. And then we see a character that is obviously supposed to be Yugioh. I believe it is Yugioh. Because we see Yugioh's ID come back online. Luke was holding the Seven Zerd Magician that Yugioh gave to him, basically symbolizing that Yugioh beat him in that duel. We see that turn back to Yugioh's ID. Rush Duels come back, and that is the end of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's. Another Yu-Gi-Oh! With a cliffhanger ending. Vrains had one with I and, Playmaker searching, and now we have Sevens where we have this 2-year skip, so much to fill in the blank here. And the craziest thing is, what the hell is going on with Yugioh? Yugioh comes back after disappearing for 2 years. He is wearing a mask that I could definitely see resembling Otis's mask. All we can see is his mouth, and that's all we could see of Otis. And in this spaceship, we see the outline of what is assumingly Mr. Goha staring at Yugioh. We see Yugioh's smirk. I believe it looks like Otis's smirk. I think a lot of people probably feel that way. And so an early theory that I have is Yugioh the new Otis? Is Yugioh the new kind of ringleader here and orchestrator of everything that is about to happen? Where did Yugioh go for those 2 years? What happened to him? And what I believe could be the case is Yugioh maybe went to Velgears, the home planet of Udius, informed Velgears about Rush Duels. Things got dire for them in the war, maybe 30, 40, 50 years later, depending on how long the skip is. And that's how Udius learned and knew what Rush Duels were, came to Earth in search of Rush Duels, because this mysterious man foretold them about how Rush Duels is able to save the world if they're ever in need of it or something like that. A lot of questions. What the hell happened to Yugioh? Is this the same Yugioh that we all knew and loved for the first 91, 92 episodes of the show? I'm not so sure. Yugioh looks like he has been through a lot, and I don't know if this smile screams friendly Yugioh to me, but boy, oh boy, what an ending, what a loaded episode, and it is such a shame that we have to wait who knows how long into Go Rush, if ever, to get some answers that we are strongly desiring. But guys, my thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, it ended up being a show that I enjoyed way more than I thought I would. I would say that Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s probably ranks about 3rd or 4th for me of the 7 Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime. And that is, when it was first announced at Jump Festa about over 2 years ago, I really did not like the art style. I felt it was going to be very aimed at kids, and it was clearly aimed at kids, but like aimed at kids to the point where it would be tough for adults or I'm in my late 20s to really enjoy the show. But man, oh man, that was really not the case. Very early on in that first arc, there were a lot of one-off joke episodes, and I thought the characters were going to be one-off characters like Khan, Yoshio, Bakuro, but that really wasn't the case. This show really was carefully written and was written in a way that did not forget many plot points and did not leave many characters forgotten about. and did not leave many stones unturned, even if those characters just made brief cameos. You know, I'm thinking about like Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Think about all those Season 1 one-off characters that Judai dueled that we just never see again. We never hear about again. That's what I thought Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s was going to be like, except even more like aimed at a younger audience. But it really was not the case. And all in all, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, I think it's probably my third or fourth favorite Yu-Gi-Oh! Show, and I think it's probably right in that range when I think of what shows are the best from the 7 Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime that we've gotten. So, on to Go Rush. It's the same team that did 7s. I think it's going to be slightly more serious. Comedy is still going to be, I think, at the forefront, but I'm very excited to see what happens next in this beautiful Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you for being here with me throughout these last 2 years of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s, and I do sincerely hope you will stay for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush anime as well. A lot of cool 7s videos coming out. I'm going to be explaining the ending. I'm going to do top 10 duels, characters, disappointments, unanswered questions, and duels we wish we saw. That will all be coming out in April, so stay tuned for that if you enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s. Thank you guys all so much for watching. A special thank you to my Platinum tier patrons, Panther J, Blue Maiden 28, Jarrett Buller, Lee Saxophone Beast, and Frost Eagle, and to my Diamond tier patrons, Jesse Wood, Latrell Smith, and Erick Avila, and to my Egyptian God tier patrons, Ccapacappuuu and Syn Cloud. Thank you so much to everyone who supports me over on Patreon or who is a YouTube channel member. You guys help me out and you help out the channel so much, and be sure to check out my Patreon for some channel exclusive perks. Thank you guys so much for watching. I stream on Twitch, I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Instagram. Links for all those will be in the description. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day. Take care, guys.